how are we going to sell 5 bikes a week?
You said we've got a presidential suite on the top floor.
So how confident are you that moving into Europe is the next step? Hi, we're here today at the newly refurbished MiRiDER HQ to talk to the directors about the last 5 years. Got some really interesting questions to ask the lads, and I'm going to start with you first, Mark.
Yeah.
I'd like your main memory, good or bad, in the last 5 years.
I think mine was, I want to go right back to the start. It was one of fear, really. We were all sat in the boardroom at head office, discussing the brand and the project. We were discussing how many bikes can we sell, and I think we put a forecast down at like 5 bikes a week, and we were like, how are we going to sell 5 bikes a week when no one knew the brand? We'd never been in the bike industry before. It was just like something that was unachievable, but we managed to do it. I don't really know how, but we did.
You know how deep down you do. Strong team.
Yeah, I think everyone was nervous, but I think you deep down you're confident in your abilities. You know, we knew we could put the right staff in. We knew we could pick a good product. You know, we knew we could take all the philosophies from the other businesses through. So I know we were a bit naive, but you know, I think we all confident deep down we could.
Yeah, I think it was a almost calculated, mitigated risk, wasn't it? It was, you know, and then the progress from there was, you know, we tasted that success, and then it's how do you keep moving that forward? Because 5 turned to 10, turned to 15, turned to 20, turned to 25, turned to 30, and then obviously, you know, you're going through, you know, a period of instability with things like COVID, you know, and the market. So, yeah, I think to your point, Mark, that we've faced loads of challenges from that, days of five a week, but right from there it was, how do we do that? And it was an eye-opener to us that we can achieve it with having no experience in the industry. I think, touching on Mark's point, one of my things that I really like is that we've along this journey we've kept it local, and we've been able to invest in our local community. We've got a workforce that are based here in Lancashire, Wigan, and what we've had to do, we've had to fill ourselves with people from the industry. If we don't have that knowledge in-house, we've had to fill ourselves with that, whether it's an engineer or customer service or sales. We've got actually a wealth of industry knowledge that has, you know, filled our knowledge base as well. And that's one thing that's been really, really important on this journey. Not presuming that we know everything, even though we understand how to market, how to brand, how to take, you know, product to market. With the rest of the businesses that we have, that range has been very diverse. So I think that drawing on the experience of a great team has been really, really vital in that journey.
What memory sticks out to you though? Out of the 5 years, what jumps out?
I think I would say for bad reasons, but also the challenges that it presents. We've sort of earlier this year, it was, you know, it was dreadful, absolutely dreadful. We have a number of units and warehousing, and we were doing renovations across all of them at the same time. So we invested in our infrastructure, and we're very fortunate that we have space to move. So as you're working on one part, you can move to the next part, but we spent 4 months effectively moving the business and transitioning it from porter cabins into offices, into units, whilst also maintaining our high service levels. But actually the drain on us, it was dreadful, because you tried to do this without hindering the rest of the team and the rest of the business too much. So as directors, we kind of bear the grunt of that, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, the number of days I spent with a road sweeper pushing it down, felt like I was at Tesco.
With a hazmat suit, on.
Which was great, but you go home every day covered in dust. So, yeah, I think that we generally attack them challenges, but yeah, one of my sort of fond memories, I'll call it,
Character
was,
building.
oh God, it was character building, but yeah, them challenges, but attacking them head on, but seeing what we've achieved from them, let's call them dark days, because it was, we had many conversations, didn't we, Mark?
Yeah.
Many conversations, and what are we doing this for? But seeing what you get on the flip of that, and we've got facilities that are outstanding, that we can host a brand like MiRiDER, and you know, and it lets our team feel that they work in a great environment, and we hope that it raises the levels. So yeah, very challenging.
What's positive for you then, Matt?
Yeah, I'll not be as long as Stephen. So naturally we all like winning, but particularly I like winning trophies and medals. So I think the earliest memory of that was probably in our third year. We won e-bike of the year, which at the time was quite a shock. I think we were only 3 years into the brand, but we managed to produce a bike quite industry revolutionary with a belt-driven gearbox drivetrain, and it won e-bike of the year from all brands. So I think that was the first major achievement we had, and that brought us more into the limelight with the press and give us credence with other dealerships and networking. So yeah, that was a good one that set us on our way, got us to the next stage, I think.
Martin?
And me, there's loads of stuff to talk about, but I think because I'm the marketing director, I think I will stick to the marketing side of it. And I think our naivety, in a way, in the cycle industry really helped us in the early days, because what it meant was, you know, we didn't really know right from wrong, and how we should approach getting our brand out there. Obviously, the name, you know, we all thought was really good, and but how do we get this brand from not known, to a mainstream brand, especially in our niche sector? And the best way we thought about doing it was getting the bike and sending it to reviewers, because even though we're opening ourselves up to criticism, and we were very nervous. You know, you're always very nervous when you send your product out to the industry press or somebody who's going to potentially rip it apart. And you know, when that first review came back, and it was almost like, oh my God, this bike is brilliant, you know, and ever since we've done that, we've always been in the top 5, you know, recommended folding bikes. So that was a nervous time, but also I don't think if we'd have known about the industry, we might not have took that path, and it would have.
I think it's also been important for the journey and the feedback, because every review that we've had, even if it's positive, we've took the criticism like it cuts you, you know, and we've let that affect the development pathway, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't want to say, right, we've got this stock or these components or whatever it was. We didn't want to say, right, I tell you what, we know the negatives, but we're just going to do it anyway. We would cut at that point and say, right, we're going to improve that straight away. I think, like you say, that every time it went to a reviewer, it was always, the last time I had this bike, I did this recommendation, but now they've updated it. So that constant moving, I think we've taken from our other businesses, and we have to do that all the time. That's been a massive positive, and I think it really put MiRiDER on the map amongst the established brands.
I think a few examples of that in reality were, a few of the early reviews were, great bike, might benefit from gears, and then that born from that was the GB3, and then the odd reviews was possibly do with a bigger battery. So the standard 16-inch battery improved from a 5 amp to a 7.5 amp, and then that ultimately then led to a bigger bike in the 24-inch bike. So yeah, I think that was certainly a brand that listens to them feedback and criticisms and uses that to guide.
So MiRiDER's a bit of a move away from your existing businesses. Why a bike?
Why a bike? I mean, there is some affinity to the past with cycling. I was kind of brought up as a kid from 4 years old on BMX racing, so we did quite well as a dad and a lad team, I guess.
Sister
Sister at the time was actually better than me in her class, but we managed to achieve British champion in 1992, 93. So I was 11 and 12 at the time, and so that that was really instilled in me and my dad as being ultra competitive, and striving against somebody else to be better and to win and achieve. So that's always gone through every business we've started or brand we've created or product we've detailed up. So MiRiDER was born and it was full all out to be the best brand we could be, but essentially a lot of the association with speed and motorsport and things went into the bike initially. We wanted it agile, lightweight. We wanted the fun factor of the boost control that we have. And when somebody with no riding experience jumps on the bike, we see that straight away. We see the smile. We see it's easy to control. It's easy to ride. So yeah, everything sort of comes around in a circle. Got to be competitive to grow the brand, but the bike's got to be better than the next brand's bike, and I think that's what we try and achieve all the time.
So customer feedback's really important. So when was the community established?
It's probably been going about 3 years now. It started slow just at the start, but I think there's now like 2,000 MiRiDER owners or riders or interested parties in this community group now. And I'm in a lot of groups personally, and the MiRiDER one gets a lot of posts on average. You're talking, maybe up to 10 a day, discussing all different things like how do I repair a puncture, and I'm looking at the MiRiDER e-bike range. I'm going to be using it for X. Is this suitable for me? And even if people are wanting to put dog baskets on and carry the pets with them, and it's a great community feel, but almost also a knowledge base, so people can use the search function and find out what people have had before, and they can research. And it gives us great feedback as well, like real-time feedback. If we see any issues or any recommendations coming through, you're getting them from the people who are owning them and riding them, so we can make changes. Yeah, it's a great resource and a really good community, and we have lots of people we've known for years and years in that space now.
Yeah, it's also nice seeing what people get up to with the bikes as well. Like every day, people post pictures. They've taken them on holiday and they're on some mountain or the side of a nice lake, and some of the photos are amazing.
Yeah, I think I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but I think we've created something that the consumers are proud of, and indirectly we've got 2,500 brand ambassadors out there.
Yeah.
So they're vocalising it in a community, but they're also vocalising that when they're out on the journeys and the trips. And first thing that happens when they pull a MiRiDER out of the boot of a car is, oh, what's that? It's the question. And that's ultimately where we started, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We thought we'd created something quite unique in the bike market, really, in the bike folding market, because the sector can be quite traditional looking.
So how important was the folding element for you then? Was that the USP that you decided on to begin with, or did that come?
That's where the idea came from, yeah. We want, like Steve says, we wanted to create a funky looking folding bike, because the market was quite traditional looking. So we this frame, it is something different in the market, and people really look at it and like the look of it.
Yeah, and
that's why we've done well, I think.
It was also, from a non-cycling company, how do you enter a cycling market? And that was, so we really focused on a niche, and even from that little niche market, we then focused on a niche sector within that, which was primarily the leisure market. And we found that we had an audience that were purchasing motorhomes, caravans, tents, awnings, doing day trips, and we found some success in that market. And then And then that's where Martin and his team do what they do, which is, you know, target audiences, bring out campaigns, and effectively answer a demographic's needs. And I think that's what we were very successful with. We had a really good product and a great brand behind that, but then it was a targeted approach, or it is a targeted approach to how we can fulfill the needs of the customer. I think you do that really successfully.
I think to close that loop, you know, with that target audience, we circled that with going heavy on exhibitions and events in that sector. So the motorhome sector, we probably do five or six, you know, trade events a year where customers come see us, ride the bike in most circumstances, and more recently we used to take stock of bikes and allow people to have a deal at the show, etc., and really sit on the bikes, learn about them. So that squares that circle, and it's nice to get that one-to-one interaction as well. We talked about the community, but being physically with somebody, discussing their needs and what they need the bike for, you know, we can, you know, give them the perfect bike for what they want, whether it's the entry-level small 16-inch wheel or the 20, or now even the bigger 24-inch if they've got bigger, longer journeys.
So you identified very early on the value in speaking to somebody in a one-to-one scenario where you're going to sell the bikes to somebody, and that's why you've gone down the route of putting MiRiDERs in retail stores.
Yeah, I think again this was quite early on, and when going back to Mark's point about the can we sell 6 or 5, 6, 7 bikes a week, and it was like, well, how are we going to sell them? Because yes, we can build a website and we can market them, but we're not going to have the footfall. No one knows the brand. So we were lucky enough to meet a B2B sales rep at the time, or a B2B sales rep and his daughter who was working with him, and they looked at the bike and instantly they were into it straight away. They loved the concept, loved the idea. Obviously spoke to the team, you know, and we really got on well with them. And yeah, it went from there. You know, they use their contacts in the industry, having represented clothing brands and other biking components. So they had the network and the contacts already. So they threw themselves straight into, you know, solely MiRiDER, and we quite quickly got the first, you know, 10, 20, 30 stores on board. And that really gave us a balance, because it gave us a lot of credibility. As a really fresh brand, it gives a lot of credibility because we're in stores. People could go and test ride in their local area, albeit we still have big gaps, as well as then backing that up with the marketing we spoke about before and the website we built. So it started to give that, it's like a snowball effect. As soon as people started seeing it, started researching it, and yeah, I think it gave us a really good boost right at the start. But you can touch on, Stephen, where we are now with the retail.
Yeah, I think just to touch on what you just said as well, because it was quite a funny period, because it's also you can't tell us something that can't be done. You know, your mum and dad, that's their favourite saying, isn't it? Don't tell us it can't be done. There's always a way. Let's find another way. And just thinking of that period and of meeting Roy and Amy and who have had very successful careers in the cycling market and cycling industry, and have been great for the brand. At that time, Roy telling us it needs to be £999, needs to be £999. Well, it can't be, Roy. It can't. It physically can't be. Otherwise, we're not going. We might sell some, but we're going to go bust.
Yeah, but so, we were very confident.
Yeah.
Like it goes back to the naivety again. We were quite naive in the cycling industry. We knew nothing.
Yeah.
But actually, we were very confident in our abilities and where to pitch this brand with the name and the price and how we were going to, the strategy how we were going to do it.
Yeah.
So. Yes, but we were quite confident, weren't we?
But we knew how to build that business, and I think that then we believed in what we were doing. Though we stuck to it. We positioned it where it needed to be to have a sustainable business. We didn't want to be a brand that was in and out of the market. We wanted to build a sustainable brand, and and obviously doing that, we positioned the brand where it was probably mid-priced, but we was adamant that we couldn't compromise on quality. So that was our proposition, wasn't it? To be achievable for most of the market, but also to have, you know, real high quality. But yeah, sort of fast forward, and that proposition's not changed really. You know, and I think we meet more of the audience now with having a bigger range, whether it's size of bike or entry point or top spec bike. You know, and the facility that we have here, where we build on site in Wigan, allows us to build from this to this, but anywhere in between. So we can customise and tailor bikes for audiences. But yeah, that journey sort of keeps moving. You know, and fast forward to today, where we're very successful, and we've got just shy of 200 retail outlets stocking our bikes very successfully.
Yeah, well, a lot of customers like to come and see us here at the MiRiDER showroom. We've just had it all refurbished, all the bikes are on display, coffee machine. They can meet the team, they can test ride. People come every day to test ride a bike.
And you can physically watch your bikes being built.
Yeah, you can go and see your bike being built, or you can visit one of the dealers.
And that's a really important point, I think. So one of the things, as a family business, you know, you like to push things forward, and you achieved the Made in Britain status in 2023. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So yeah, I think of all the companies we have, this was really the company that we could really drive the Made in Britain status. And I think from the outset we set on a journey of being in full control of the product. It's, you know, in its final guide, so that involves sampling all the elements to the bike, bringing those components in, and building the bike how we wanted it built, and making sure it was tested and approved before it ever got boxed. So I think that adds a lot to the customer, that guarantee that bike's being built in accordance with safety rules and regulations, but it also arrives to them in perfect condition, having been test ridden by a technician. So the Made in Britain is, you know, a great mark, you know, outlooking as well. If, you know, it says straight away to a dealership that we are a UK built product brand, and that gives them a lot of reassurance in terms of customer support after sales. And they know they can speak to somebody just down the road in some circumstances by any means, on the phone, email, telephone,
video call.
Yeah, we have technicians who will speak one-to-one with other, you know, independent technicians to advise them how to change a part or diagnose an issue. So that's something you don't get with a foreign brand. You just don't get it. So there's lots of value that we add in the UK like that.
It's crazy what's happened in the last 5 years. If you sit down and talk about it now, from the very start to now, and it seems a long time for me, 5 years, but actually in the cycling industry it's like just a dot, isn't it, in time, and what we've managed to achieve from zero to, like, you know, one of the main brands in the compact folding e-bike sector. Obviously you've got the other big ones like Brompton, great bike, but to be up there with them in only 5 years, I think everyone should be proud of it. But we were confident, but you know, you never quite know which direction it's going to be. But I think now, you know, we're a force to be reckoned with in this sector, and we've done it our way, and the customers have really responded well to that. And I think the brand is only just going to go from strength to strength.
Yeah, I think the added challenge that we've had, you know, I was at the Cycling Industry News show at the weekend, and the market is flat, and you know, you speak to everybody out there and it's how's it going, and the response is the same from everyone, and it's just that's the response. And I think so it probably is testament that we've been able to have that success throughout that time. Yes, we've had our challenges, but you know, I think we keep coming through them challenges, and we've got challenges now, but yeah, I think that it's our job to navigate them challenges, and that's what I would say that we like to sort of set our minds to, and that mentality of don't tell us it can't be done. And that's where we're at a little bit now. How do we keep moving this journey forward, and in a market that's quite turbulent, and opening yourselves up to other markets is something that we have to do, and that's where we're at right now.
So what are your ideas to combat the situation at the moment? Are there any ideas of how you want to move the bikes forward? Any new product launches? Anything else?
So I think primarily the key word for us is accessibility. So we have a dealer network that spans the country, and we protect our dealers. So we won't have multiple dealers on each other's footsteps, because it's within their interest. And part of that, as the brand, we protect that brand, but we also try to share the wealth of that brand, maybe. And as a marketing team, we drive traffic to our dealer network, but there's holes in that network. So that accessibility, we'd like a consumer to have access to the network within 10 miles, but there are still holes in that network. So our immediate drive is to, fill that network with really good dealers that can add value to our brand, and then expand beyond that country that we live in, and make steps across the water into Europe primarily, because this deserves to be a global brand.
I think just touching on your point about protecting the brand, especially in the retail network, is that we've never been a discounting brand as well. So we've always protected the price, haven't we? Because we think it's so important, although the gut instinct, sometimes the natural reaction is, we want more sales, we'll discount the product. But it puts everyone in bother, puts the retailer in bother, puts us in bother. So we just worked really hard on the product to making sure the quality was really high. And we've maintained that retail price, so there's never any discounting. And I think that the retail network really appreciate that, and they can get behind it because they know they're not going to be knocked down or undercut at any point. And I think that Stephen touched on it slightly, was what we do on online and the way we market it is we drive sales into the stores. So the footfall might be low, during this time, but we advertise to people and we get them to book a free demo, and we take that booking, pass it on to their nearest dealer, and actually physically book the customer in. So when the customer, essentially you get a bum on a seat, if you get someone on a MiRiDER bike, there's like 80% chance they're going to buy one.
But there's no hard sell, it's just come along, try the bike,
exactly that.
Experience it for yourself.
There's no hard sell. They just go into a store, whether it's a local one to them or when they come to the factory, they're going to sit on the bike, they're going to ride it, and obviously we're confident in their experience with MiRiDER because it's reviewed really well and it is a great bike. We actively drive people into stores, and I think it's great for the brand, but it's good for the retailer to have that support needed.
So you've touched on Europe, the next step.
Yeah, hopefully. It's a natural step for us. We feel that we're ready. As Mark and Martin both alluded to, we've had 5 years of learning, establishing the brand, learning the market, understanding the sector. Even going to a bike show at the weekend, and we're still in relativity know nobody, and we need to be better at more outbound stuff. We're good at product and brand, but actually putting ourselves on the map as business people that support that, I think that we can do better, and I think that MiRiDER making its first steps into Europe is a really important part of that journey.
So will the strategy be the same then? You'll be looking for retailers?
So I think what we exist as here in the UK is we're a manufacturer, we are marketers, we are distributors, and we also do a little bit of retail, but we successfully do all of that together. I think to effectively have any traction in Europe, we're going to need some really good distribution partners. Obviously, you've got the added challenge of being across the water. So having on the ground knowledge and understanding of the market in that territory is vital. Yes, we know our product. Yes, we know our brand. Yes, we know our sector here, but we're not naive enough to think we know what that is like in France, Germany, etc. So I think as a starting point, we've got all of the tools, all of the resources that we need to provide a distributor with a great product, a great brand, and all of the marketing assets that needs to then build a brand. But sometimes you just need a hook, and that hook of where we refer back to, that's what we need. So yeah, we're very confident that we can do it. But yeah, on this journey, the first step's often the hardest, but the first step is the most important for us. Finding that right distributor that's really invested in growing a brand, because that's what it is, and it'll be a journey from zero to wherever, and that's our challenge.
Yeah, I think the key to it with anything is finding the right person, the right partner, the right relationship, because that's what business is all about. It's finding the right relationship, and
we need us, don't we?
Yeah, we need a set of people that
like-minded,
enthusiastic. They want to grow a business, grow a brand. And we know this brand can double, treble in size just by crossing the water and doing things right and what we do here. So we are confident, but we need to find that right partner to do it.
I think we've actually skipped a step. Like the bike as it is now, you've been working hard in the background, haven't you, on conformity?
Yeah.
Because obviously Europe is slightly different, and you know, the obvious one is the brakes or the other way around, but that's a small thing. But the conformity, the instruction manuals, quick start guides, everything's been translated already. So a lot of the groundwork here at the factory, the physical work, is actually being completed across all the bikes. So now it's really, like Mark says, finding the right partners, you know, whether that be a distributor, marketing, influencers, shows, trade exhibitions, you know, anyone, investors, doesn't matter who it is on this journey, we want the right people with us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have an idea, but yeah, we're not a closed book. We're sat here, sort of, we welcome sort of any sort of impact along that, and it'll shape that journey, but we don't really know how it's going to go. But yeah, just to add to one of Martin's things that he said there, it's also we've been working hard on making sure that along with this Made in Britain stamp that's there as a trust element, we've also got a UK certificate of origin on our bikes. So obviously when you talk about Europe and a duty free, which is really important for any importer on that side of the water.
Yep.
We've also got a very healthy Trustpilot scheme running. You get some excellent reviews.
Yeah, well, as a marketing person, I look at that must be twice a day. No, I don't really. In the early stages, you know, every review absolutely mattered, you know, for growth of the brand. But as that swells and the more you sell, you know, that becomes less important every single review, more about the collective. But it's just so nice to read people's experience, whether that be about the product or about the customer journey, whether the factory or at a retail store, and you get to see how the bikes have helped people. So someone might have had a knee operation and thought, oh, I'm never going to ride a bike again because my knee's not going to be the same, or even people who've had heart operations, so rehabilitation. They love riding, but they can't do that exertion the same as they could, especially in the early days after the operation. So they get to jump on a really exciting bike that's going to help them get around. So it's great reading all the reviews on Trustpilot, and when we get a really interesting one, I always send it around in the group, don't I, for everyone to see.
We're going to talk a little bit about being a family business and what it means, brothers, family, how that dynamic works between you lot.
Shouldn't work, but it does. Absolutely mental. I joined the family, 20 years ago, but joined the family business 15 years ago, and we are uniquely stubborn. We're all stubborn. It starts right from the top, starts from grandma, that was really, really stubborn, and then dad, really stubborn, and then we're equally stubborn, and you know, how you manage collectively as a team, as a board, and make decisions. I think we're very unique in that I think we all trust each other massively. So the flip to the negative, we've got massive trust in each other's ability to make decisions, and none of us run on our own. I think we all effectively pull rank where we need to pull rank.
Yeah, different areas of different requirements, different areas of the business. Obviously, marketing's me, Matthew's sales, B2B, things like that, shows, Mark's purchasing. You know, you as a more an overall general manager, you rely on the other person. We discuss it between us all, but you do rely on, you know, that person for their expertise, and that, I think, like, having that slight separation works, but also the trust, like you say.
But from an outward looking in, probably shouldn't work, but I think it really does. I think we all trust each other massively, and we all we try to make smart moves, don't we?
Yeah, we're all massively competitive as well, so that helps. And like Steve says, we all pull in the same direction, and you have to. If anyone's going in another direction, it doesn't work. So it's critical that we all go in the same direction.
So you obviously work well together, but it can't all be work. There's got to be some play involved. So I want to know about some fun times. What happens along the way in the last 5 years? There's got to be some stories.
Oh, there's some stories. I mean, someone else is probably better telling them than me, but let's stick to my line of stories, right? I think it's over that side of the table here. That side of the table's got the stories.
Oh God. Maybe a negative story with me and some other colleagues at the time. It was back in the early days, 2019. We went for an exploratory mission to Germany, to the Eurobike global show, just to acquire more knowledge, meet some suppliers, and see what's going on in the bike world, basically. So we were a bit late to the party booking, so all that was left in this town was a youth hostel or something of that nature. So I booked an Airbnb, went to the show, did a whole day there, and then started our evening, basically. So we went for a meal, hung around a little bit, had a couple of beers, and then went to look for our hotel or youth hostel. There was no taxis, no youth trains, nothing to get anywhere. The whole town was just gridlocked with people at the show, so we couldn't get anywhere, and I couldn't phone call the youth hostel, and we were stuck. We walked around the whole of the town looking for any rooms in hotels, bed and breakfast, you name it. We tried. There was nothing available. So this was getting towards midnight. We were sat in a hotel bar, residing to the fact that we were going to have to sleep in a park bench. It was literally that scenario. And to make it worse, we had a new employee with us, and we brought him in as a product developer. And this was his first impression of the brand and the outlook. And he was getting a bit agitated and putting pressure on us to do something.
But we do stuff like that. You know, when you're doing it yourself, we've done crazy stuff like that. But you don't put it on an employee, and that's.
Yeah, me and the fellow director, we were fine. You know, we mentally switched over to roughing it, basically. God. And only by chance, Martin, the other director at the time, asked the hotel, "Is there nothing you've got in this building? Is there no rooms anywhere?" And he said, "We've got a presidential suite on the top floor." And Martin came back with this information, and I'm thinking, they've actually got rooms, 3 beds and everything. He said, "Yeah, top floor, there's loads of beds, you know, your own, you know, coffee machine and all sorts of stuff. Sounded like paradise at the time, so I didn't blink. I just said, yeah, just put it on the credit card. So we had a room for the night. I think it was like €1,000 or something for the privilege, but it got us out of a hole.
You'd have spent anything on that room.
Yeah, could have been €2,000. I still would have said yeah.
Did you keep the employee on the back of it?
Yeah, he eventually came round. He was relatively comfortable after that. So
I've got a story I'll go have to see.
Well, go on.
It's just come into my mind. We went, me and Matthew did an exhibition in Germany, the same one, with MiRiDER. And we'd actually been watching the Grand Prix on the same weekend or the weekend before.
in Austria.
In Austria.
Yeah.
So me and Matt drove separately to Germany, to Frankfurt to exhibit at the show. And we got there absolutely knackered, like, obviously been driving for hours and hours. Got to the stand, did some setup, got it partially ready, but we left half a pallet of bikes on the stand overnight, right? Thinking they'd be fine. No one's gonna touch them. I think we cornered off the stand with some tape and stuff. And then we came in the next day all fresh, buzzing. We're going to get this stand set up. And pallet of bikes, gone. Completely gone. Obviously.
Nine bikes.
Nine
all
bikes.
The display bikes.
Yeah.
What did you think? Someone had moved them all. What was your...
Well, we obviously looked around the area. Someone's just moved them on a pallet truck or something. But unfortunately, they'd been stolen. So we were stood on a stand in Germany, no bikes. Obviously, in a really bad day before the show. Terrible situation.
Well, my story's on the similar sort of train. It's also a Eurobike. So Matt's was at a different Friedrichshafen. Yeah. That was at Frankfurt. Mine's at Frankfurt.
So we need to not let you out of the country.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Did we mention that we want to enter Europe as well? No. Yeah, we were at Eurobike one year, and we actually had a little booth outside at the test track. And for anyone that's actually been to Eurobike at Frankfurt, they have a fabulous test track that you can test all sorts of bikes there. But the flip to that, every year it's like a wind tunnel, and you've got these huge sort of buildings, glorified warehouses that host all the exhibitions, and then through the middle of them, it's like corridors, that are just wind tunnels. And we were stood there at the show, and it's sunny, maybe 30 degrees.
Yeah, stunning, gorgeous.
And then the next minute, the sky's changing, and me and Matt are holding on to the gazebo. The gazebo's blowing all over, and anyway, we then tried to secure it for the night. Thought it was fine. And it was the middle of the night, wasn't it? Was it you that got a text or a phone call?
We were just finishing our evening meal, and it was like 10 o'clock.
And because it had all calmed down, and we'd secured everything with extra weights and bungees, and Matt got a phone call. So anyway, we ended up going back to the exhibition centre, and it was just a scene of devastation. And there was gazebos everywhere, weren't there? It was
like a tornado.
It was chaos, just ripped through. So the next day, we gets up in the morning, and I'm in a taxi hunting around Frankfurt for just a pop-up gazebo. Oh. Anyway, I found one at a garden centre, spent a stupid amount of money on this really flimsy gazebo, and we reskinned it with our skin, didn't we? Do you remember? But you have some challenges along the way, don't you?
It always happens in Germany.
But they loved our bike though.
Yeah.
They loved our bike in Germany. Yeah. They always got some really nice comments.
So how confident are you that moving into Europe is the next step?
Well, I'm very confident just because what I've seen, heard, and listened to. I think exhibiting at Frankfurt, the cycle show there for multiple years, and people being very receptive to our bike. It's quite different to what is the norm over there. They tend to be quite big, heavy, bulky bikes, with a lot of technology on them. And I think ours was like a breath of fresh air with a small bike that's quite nippy, exciting to ride, compact, and a reasonable price. But I think the other thing is, from a marketing perspective, because the way we approached it in the early days, and we had a lot of YouTube videos and published on these platforms which were global, we've been consistently getting people saying, I'm in France or Germany or Spain, I really love the product, where can I buy it? You know, and we've literally just had to say, sorry, can't do it. You know, and that's not because we couldn't just send the bike over to them. We wouldn't do it because we wouldn't want to send a product with no support. You know, so no network like we have in the UK for sales, servicing, warranty. So we would just never do that because we don't want to put the brand under that, in that position. So I think it's important. I know the demand's there because people are asking for the product, but it's really important we do it in the right way.
Yeah, and there's also similar markets out there. You know, the motorhome, caravan, you know, leisure sector is huge, absolutely huge. I got what you was just saying about the community there, and it's absolutely wicked seeing these pictures on a daily basis, isn't it? It's where they are. And yesterday, someone was putting it outside the Berlin Wall.
Yeah,
do you see that?
Yeah.
But well, honestly, I got the biggest buzz 2 years ago. I was sat in a little restaurant in Cavero in Portugal, beautiful little place. And honestly, a MiRiDER rode past. A woman rode past, and I'm stood there in the restaurant. I jumped up, I'm like, MiRiDER! And I ran over to her, and she was literally just sat there on a bike, just looking at the beach. And I had a chat with her, introduced myself, and I said, "Are you on the community?" And she wasn't. She wasn't on the community, so I told her about the community. But just like that satisfaction of seeing your bike in, you know, the wilderness, let's say, somewhere, and that, like, for us, you see them more and more and more and more now, and it's ace seeing that, and like the satisfaction of that, and all these people that are taking our bikes abroad, but to date we've sold not one unit abroad. It's a no-brainer, and we know there's a market there, and yeah, I think it's over here we have done. Back to that stubbornness of us, we've done everything ourselves. We have done everything ourselves. We've backed ourselves and we've gone for it and done it. And then we've had specialists along the way. We've used marketing agencies that have come and give us their expertise. We've used influencers in different sectors. We've got staff in-house that are like this. But I think we're all very open that to make this work overseas, we do need help. We don't know what that help is, but we do need help, and we're very open to someone coming in and joining that journey, really. But it's going to happen, and the market's there, and the market's much bigger than it is here. And yes, there's facing the same challenges that we're facing over here, but the market's big enough for another player like ours, because I think that, you know, if you compare our bike, like you said, to the rest of the market out there is position for us. And all of them years doing Eurobike and not trying to sell bikes, it's all about learning and understanding and infusing yourself in the sector and market research. So we are confident, but that buzz that we get seeing it either on the community or in real life, it's immense, isn't it? Really? Yeah.
So come on, there must be some stories about how competitive you lot have been growing up.
Tell the go-kart story.
Get them on a go-kart. Honestly, so I've got one. Sorry, I've got a little butte actually. So Christmas do. Come on, let's get the MiRiDER team out for Christmas do. What we're going to do? Let's go go-karting. Right? So let's go go-karting. Right? So really, there's two races going on here. There's these three, and the rest. And I'm ahead of the rest. But yeah, honestly, we're talking within a few laps. These three, we're talking barging each other out of the way, and there was a bit of friction, weren't there? Who barges into that, right?
Matthew and
Matt is the barger, really.
I don't think
if you're in front of Matt, you're getting one up the backside.
Yeah. But yeah, it's there's two races going on all the time when it's like that.
I think cycling's it's through and through in this business, though, isn't it? It's not just us as a family. Sales director Amy, she was on the Olympic team for cycling, and she also did 2 disciplines. So she did road cycling and downhill cycling, downhill mountain biking. So, she was on the Olympic team, extremely good rider, but her dad is as well. So her dad's just national champion again for over 70s category, doing a 130-mile bike ride. So, cycling's through and through here. So everyone's interested in cycling, and that really helps push the brand forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, Alan as well, customer service manager. He does endurance races over several days of riding, doesn't he? And
bike packing.
Bike packing, literally take his tent in a bike.
Yeah, and sleeps in a bus stop and all this stuff.
But there's some funny stories he tells you where he wraps his leg through the frame of the bike,
So no one
puts
steals.
the tent over the top, and he says, I need to position the tent where I'm under the undergrowth and stuff, and he's saying he has to wade through rivers with his bike over his head, and the bike weighs 38 kilograms.
Yeah.
God, biking's through and through, but that is crazy, Alan.
Yeah, and we've got and the little things I love seeing. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 members of staff that have all got MiRiDERs. They ride them to work on a daily basis. Brilliant seeing them do that. But something we've not really touched on, but probably pertinent to the whole conversation is, so, Matt talked a bit about the rest of the stuff, but we've got multiple other successful businesses that are completely away from, you said why bikes, they're completely away from that, but actually they also complement as well. So we have a brand called Festive Lights, so we're huge in e-commerce in the UK, and as the name probably suggests, at Christmas we're booming. The bike sector is the opposite seasonality, so it fits that. So we're also big into car security with Disc Lock. And then we have multiple other brands. We have Drybox, and we also have a 3PL fulfillment distribution centre. So actually we're a family business. We're a family business at heart. MiRiDER is a brand within that family business. But all of the group of companies that we have, they really complement MiRiDER, but also they're very, very important in that next step. So just 100 yards that way, we've got a distribution centre that's sending 5,000-6,000 parcels a day all over the world. So when we talk about that question to Martin before, of are you confident in Europe? How can you? We think we've got a great product. We know we've got good people. Even the people outside of MiRiDER in the other brands that we have, they offer a wealth of experience with MiRiDER. Especially if you think of festive, out of season, someone like Richard, the ops manager, will float into MiRiDER and support the team here. But then how do you then get product overseas? We're doing it on a daily basis anyway, with all of the other things that we're doing. Disc Lock, one of our current best distributors, is based in Japan. So although we're not used to doing it with MiRiDER, we're used to doing it in business. When Matt, Martin and Mark have both testified that we are winners, we're going to achieve. So I think we're determined, resilient buggers that'll make it work. And we're probably sat here now talking about it, sort of open to a bit of help along the way, really.
I think the right people on this journey is going to make this, the best it can be, isn't it? It's getting the right people, and who that is, we don't know, but we'll definitely open that, aren't we?
Yeah, anyone who's willing to have a conversation, who's been there and done it, or helped a brand like MiRiDER establish in Europe.
Yeah, and sorry. Martin now is a self-professed LinkedIn wizard. He is a LinkedIn wizard, so we'll probably see this video on LinkedIn somewhere along the way. But actually, I said it before, we are dreadful at putting ourselves out there. We are, and Mark's got this drive at the moment, but actually he's not doing any of his own. He's not doing any of his own stuff. But we need to be better. We do need to be better at stuff like this. And yes, we know a lot about our industry and about our business and our brand, you know, and little things like this, hosting our first ever podcast, are like little ways of, let's put yourself out there a little bit more. And yeah, I think you never know what's going to come of something like this. You'd only need someone sat on the other end of the internet watching a video on a brand successful like MiRiDER, thinking I can contribute to this, and that we're willing to share that success. And that's what we hope comes from something like this. You know, and back to Martin of how you do that along the way. It's like all them little connections that you make along the way, they're so important in that. And as you know, there are lots of people that can connect and have an impact in our future, really. And if you do want to connect, you know, we're more than willing to connect. We can offer lots of advice to other brands, other industries. But yeah, we're also sat as a group of guys that need help as well. Yeah.
Well, it's been really interesting to get to know you all. Thank you for your time. You heard it here first. If anybody's out there that wants to work with the lovely people here at MiRiDER, then get in touch.